She was a Ukrainian model who traveled thousands of miles to the United States to chase her dreams. Believing she had found a wealthy boyfriend, and even welcoming a symbol of their love into the world, her happiness seemed to begin. However, in a single night, her life came to a brutal end. The circumstances of the crime were horrifying. The level of cruelty in this case was comparable to the infamous Black Dahlia mystery. What exactly happened that year? Why was the perpetrator so merciless? Let us turn back time to 2016 to uncover the details of this tragic story. The central figure in this tale is Ayanna Kassian, a 30-year-old model living in Los Angeles. She had sparkling eyes and long black hair. Born on January 27, 1986, in a modest family in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, little is known about her childhood. She was described as a quiet and kind girl. Her parents, recognizing her intelligence and diligence from a young age, placed high hopes on her, especially in her education. They invested considerable effort in her studies. Ayanna worked hard and eventually graduated with a law degree. She later secured a position at the National Tax Agency, a stable job. Even during her university years, she was deeply interested in fashion and modeling. After all, Ukraine is renowned for producing beautiful women and international supermodels. This favorable environment introduced many young women to the modeling industry. Thanks to her striking appearance and excellent physique, Ayanna frequently graced fashion runways in addition to her regular job. Despite the intense competition among Ukraine's many beautiful women, she achieved a measure of success and gradually became a standout on the catwalk. With a smooth, joy-filled life in Ukraine, continuing her career there would have been a reasonable choice. However, Ayanna was not content. She dreamed of something bigger, a larger stage and a life filled with more challenges. That dream destination was the United States. In 2014, at the age of 28, Ayanna finally made the decision to pursue her long-held dream. She moved to the U.S. to make it a reality. She headed straight to the bustling city of Los Angeles, a place known as the epicenter of entertainment, film, and culture, making it an ideal setting for her modeling aspirations. The sunny beaches and dazzling lights of Los Angeles captivated her. Ayanna resolved to stay and build a life there. Thanks to her years of experience on the runway, she quickly secured modeling opportunities, and her career started to gain momentum. Some reports suggest she initially found work as a translator, but either way, she quickly settled into life in Hollywood. For her, the only missing piece in the picture of her life was a sweet romance. Finding her dream prince would make everything perfect. Fate intervened unexpectedly, as it always does. At a party, a man named Blake caught her attention. At the party, Blake, wearing glasses, sat quietly in a corner, appearing reserved and detached from the lively atmosphere around him. The love between them blossomed quickly. They fell deeply in love, became a couple, and eventually got engaged. Ayanna was delighted with Blake because he wasn't just a wealthy man, but also talented and incredibly caring toward her. Before long, they welcomed a beautiful daughter named Diana. To help care for her, Ayanna invited her mother, Olga, from Ukraine to Los Angeles. To give the young couple their privacy, Olga rented an apartment near their home. For Ayanna, having a loving fiancé, an adorable daughter, and material wealth seemed like the perfect life. Her sweet and happy journey had just begun, but an unexpected tragedy struck. On May 25, 2016, a wave of unease enveloped Olga Kassian. She was unable to contact her daughter. Ayanna wasn't answering her phone or responding to messages, which was highly unusual. Concerned, Olga enlisted a friend to accompany her to Ayanna's apartment on Holloway Drive in West Hollywood. They saw Ayanna's car parked in the building's garage, but no one answered the door despite repeated knocks. From below, Olga glanced through the balcony window and noticed someone inside the apartment who appeared to be a guest. However, when she called out for them to open the door, the person pretended not to hear and shut the window. In this urgent situation, Olga had no choice but to call the police. 2 officers from the Los Angeles Police Department promptly arrived on the scene. After knocking on the door several times and hearing no response from inside, the officers stated that they could not force entry and instead sought the building manager for Blake's contact information. However, when they called, the phone went straight to voicemail, with no answer. The initial police response ended there. Distraught, Olga sent a desperate message to her daughter. "My dear daughter, are you alive? I came to your home, but no one opened the door. Please reply to me. I know he's keeping you there. I've already called the police." After waiting anxiously with no response, Olga contacted the police again. This time, after knocking again without any answer, the officers recognized the severity of the situation. The investigator in charge discovered evidence that someone was indeed inside the apartment. Iana's phone had been used to order food delivery at 1:48 a.m. on May 25th and again at 3 a.m. on May 26th. Additionally, hallway security cameras recorded someone inside retrieving the deliveries. This was bizarre. Someone was clearly inside the apartment. Why wouldn't they respond to repeated knocks or answer the phone? Neighbors also mentioned they hadn't seen anyone enter or leave the unit for 2 days. Based on the clues provided by Olga, the police began to suspect that Blake might have done something terrible to Iana inside the apartment. Realizing they could not delay any longer, the officers requested a spare key from the building's management. However, when they attempted to unlock the door, they discovered it had been bolted from the inside, making it impossible to open from outside. With no other option, the police decided to break down the door. After forcing entry, they were met with darkness and carefully stepped inside. They searched the living room, dining area, kitchen, balcony, and other common spaces, but found nothing. Only 2 bedrooms remained. When they attempted to open the door to the guest bedroom, they found it blocked by a mattress. Clearly, someone had deliberately tried to prevent entry. However, the obstruction didn't deter the police. After forcing their way into the guest bedroom, they found no one inside but discovered traces of blood near the headboard. This realization led the police to suspect that a murder may have occurred. They hurried to the master bedroom, only to find that the door was also locked from the inside. The officers attempted to force it open, but the doorway was completely blocked by a mattress and other furniture, making entry impossible. The police shouted, "We know someone is in there!" "This is the police." A deep male voice responded from inside the room. "I'm not coming out. If I do, you'll attack me immediately." The officers quickly realized the man speaking was Blake. They knew that forcing their way in might provoke him into doing something reckless. Thus, they refrained from taking immediate action and instead began speaking calmly. The police said, "We're only here to check on Iana. There's nothing else to worry about, so relax." Blake replied, "My girlfriend is sick and in the hospital nearby." He even provided a bed number. Of course, the officers didn't believe his blatant lie, but the problem was that Blake refused to come out or engage in further conversation. For Iana's safety, they couldn't storm in. The situation reached a deadlock. At this point, a negotiator was brought in. Interestingly, the negotiator was not a police specialist, but Blake's friend and accountant, Green. After a friendly conversation between Green and Blake, he finally stepped out of the room. At that point, Blake was wearing only white underwear and appeared utterly exhausted. His left cheek had scratches and bruises, his arms showed multiple defensive wounds, and his left chin and arm bore bite marks, clear evidence of a struggle. The police immediately restrained him and entered the bedroom to investigate. Upon stepping inside, one officer shouted, "She's there! On the bed!" The person the officer referred to was Iana. She lay motionless, no longer breathing. An autopsy later revealed a horrifying and gruesome scene. Iana's body was nearly drained of blood. Approximately 80% of it had been lost. Her scalp had been cut, one of her ears was severed, and other injuries were too gruesome to describe in detail. The wounds on her head were particularly appalling. The cause of death was determined to be massive blood loss caused by severe trauma to the head, which ruptured her arteries and veins. The time of death was estimated to be at least 10 hours before discovery. The coroner noted that Iana endured immense suffering for 6 to 8 hours after the attack, during which she was brutally tortured. The level of cruelty was likened to the infamous Black Dahlia murder. Even imagining it is suffocating. The coroner remarked, "I've been in this profession for 15 years and I've never seen anything like this. I doubt any forensic pathologist or medical examiner, domestically or internationally, has encountered a case like this. It is extraordinarily cruel and exceedingly rare. The police discovered additional bloodstains throughout the apartment, including on the mattress, headboard, carpet, towels, and curtains. In the bathtub of the master bedroom, they found traces of blood and hair. A razor with bloodied hair was found in the trash can. All this evidence confirmed that the apartment was the crime scene. Moreover, the minimal amount of visible blood at the scene indicated that the room had been meticulously cleaned. Using luminol, investigators discovered a significant amount of residual blood on the carpet next to the bed in the master bedroom and in the bathroom. Based on the blood patterns and the fact that Iyanna's body was nearly drained of blood, police concluded that she had been dragged from the bedroom to the bathtub, where her blood was completely drained. Outside the building, in a public trash bin, police found 11 garbage bags. Each bag was filled with blood-soaked towels and bed sheets. One of the sheets even had a clear, blood-stained handprint, as well as an ear and other human tissues. DNA testing confirmed that all the blood and tissues matched Iyanna's DNA. As for the perpetrator of this horrific crime, it was undoubtedly her boyfriend, Blake. Although he had showered and cleaned himself after committing the crime, the bite marks on his body and the skin tissue found under Iyanna's fingernails were irrefutably hers. Similarly, tissue from Blake's body was found under Iyanna's nails. The blood-stained handprint on the bedsheet, which showed a missing pinky, matched the fact that Blake's right pinky finger was partially amputated. Along with other evidence, Blake's guilt was undeniable. But why did he treat his girlfriend so cruelly? Blake's full name was Blake Leibel. He was born in 1981 in Ontario, Canada. His father was a real estate mogul whose company was one of the wealthiest developers in Canada. In addition to his real estate success, his father was an Olympic sailor and a member of the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Blake's mother, Eleanor, came from a wealthy family that founded a well-known plastic film company. Blake grew up in extreme privilege, with more money than he could ever spend. However, even in wealthy families, there can be strife. When Blake was young, his parents had a troubled relationship and eventually separated. Blake lived with his mother while his older brother, Cody, stayed with their father. Perhaps due to this separation, Blake's relationship with his father was strained. After graduating from university in 2004, Blake moved to Los Angeles. While he received substantial financial support from his family and could have lived comfortably without working, Blake wanted to create something on his own. Los Angeles, with its thriving film industry, seemed like the perfect place to begin. Fortunately, Blake was not entirely without talent. From a young age, he had been passionate about video games and comic books, and he had also studied relevant subjects in school. In 2008, Blake worked on the production of an animated series called Spaceballs. In 2009, he directed a comedy film titled Bald. By 2010, he published a dark graphic novel called Syndrome. It could be said that during his years in Hollywood, Blake was far from idle. His career flourished, and he became a rising director and graphic novelist. In terms of relationships, Blake was certainly not lacking. In 2006, he met a model named Amanda. Amanda was described by her friends as a party girl, as she frequently attended Hollywood events. At one such party, she met Blake, who was also in attendance. Blake was a bit of an odd character. While he enjoyed socializing, he often came across as a mild-mannered, unassuming guy at parties. This uniqueness intrigued Amanda, and she quickly fell for him. The two soon became a couple. Their friends, however, did not support the relationship. Amanda loved partying, while Blake preferred staying home, making them seem incompatible. In 2011, Amanda became pregnant, and the two decided to marry and officially registered their marriage. Their child's birth brought a brief sense of joy to their small family. However, the differences in their personalities, initially overlooked, became magnified in daily life. They frequently argued over their incompatibilities. Gradually, both realized their friends' initial concerns might have been valid. Perhaps they shouldn't have been together. Eventually, they separated but did not finalize their divorce. That same year, Blake's mother passed away from cancer, leaving behind an estate worth $12 million. Blake assumed he would inherit a significant portion of her wealth. However, in her final will, he received only a few $1,000,000 while the majority went to his father and brother. This deeply upset Blake, and he even suspected his father of forging the will. Although he raised concerns, the matter ultimately faded away. From that point forward, Blake harbored resentment toward his father, and their relationship turned hostile. Around this time, Blake met Ayana, a woman from Ukraine. Their relationship progressed rapidly. Blake deliberately concealed his marital status. When Ayana discovered the truth, Blake lied, claiming he was in the process of divorcing his wife. In reality, Blake did intend to divorce Amanda. By July 2015, even though Amanda was pregnant and nearing her due date, Blake finalized the divorce and moved out. In August, Ayana also became pregnant. Things moved quickly with no time wasted. Ayana then moved into Blake's apartment in West Hollywood to focus on her pregnancy. She was thrilled with the relationship, believing Blake to be perfect. He was a millionaire who doted on her, showering her with luxury goods, a Mercedes, diamond rings, a home, and the promise of a family together. It seemed like a bright future. She had achieved her dream of marriage and motherhood in America. In April 2016, Ayana invited her mother, Olga, from Ukraine to Los Angeles to help care for the baby. On May 3rd, their daughter, Diana, was born. To give the young couple privacy, Olga rented an apartment near Ayana's home to be close enough to assist with the baby. At first, everything seemed perfect. But just 2 weeks later, Ayana reported Blake to the police, accusing him of forcing her into non-consensual relations and filed charges against him. This incident appeared to be the starting point of their conflicts. However, the police concluded this alone was insufficient motive for Blake to murder Ayana. Blake's friends also defended him, stating he had no prior criminal record and was known as a polite man who had inherited a substantial fortune. They argued he had no reason to jeopardize his future. Furthermore, after the crime, Blake consistently denied guilt, claiming innocence and stating, "Science will prove my innocence." However, all the evidence at the scene pointed irrefutably to Blake as the perpetrator. So, what truth was hidden behind this crime? After conducting numerous investigations, particularly examining conversations between Ayana and her mother before her death, police uncovered a darker side of Blake. He was far from the upstanding individual his friends had described. In fact, both Blake and his brother Cody were heavily involved in gambling. Cody, in particular, was a high-stakes gambler, often betting sums that reached millions of dollars. However, gambling rarely pays off, and Cody was no exception. He eventually racked up massive debts. Due to these gambling losses, Cody crossed paths with dangerous people, leading Blake to worry that his brother might bring disaster upon their family. In addition to gambling, Blake was addicted to marijuana and other illegal substances. He frequently lashed out at his ex-wife and girlfriends, only to later beg for forgiveness in bizarre ways. This volatile behavior became more apparent during Ayana's late pregnancy, straining their relationship even further. One of the reasons Ayana invited her mother, Olga, to help care for the baby was because she valued the relationship and hoped to mend their fractures by spending more time together. Unfortunately, this plan failed. Just days after their daughter Diana was born, Blake's behavior deteriorated further. He became increasingly irritable, often closing all the curtains and smoking illegal substances in the apartment, filling the space with smoke. He showed no interest in his daughter and even resented and despised her, blaming her for monopolizing Ayana's attention and time. Blake only cared about his own desires and needs. Mere days after Ayana gave birth, he forced her to engage in sexual relations. Blake even openly threatened Ayana, saying, "If you don't satisfy me, I'll find someone else." And he followed through on this threat. Police discovered that during Ayana's pregnancy, Blake had been involved with 3 other women simultaneously. In addition to his ex-wife Amanda, he was seeing a woman named Bakafri. Bakafri testified that during her first date with Blake, he assaulted her and transmitted a sexually transmitted disease to her. She filed a lawsuit against him, but surprisingly, she later forgave him. and the two became secret lovers. To facilitate their affair, Blake arranged for McCaffrey to live in one of his other apartments. Meanwhile, he maintained close contact with his ex-wife, Amanda. Iyanna's mother, Olga, told police that although she had only been in Los Angeles for a short time, she quickly realized Blake was highly controlling and dangerous. She urged her daughter to move in with her, but for reasons unknown, Iyanna kept returning to Blake. Perhaps she truly didn't want to let go of the relationship. 2 days before her murder, Iyanna was shopping with her mother at a mall. However, the moment she received a message from Blake, she became visibly anxious and rushed to meet him. No one could have imagined that this would be the last time they would see her alive. Prosecutors believed that Blake's motive stemmed from jealousy and anger toward the child. The baby's arrival made him feel he was losing control over Iyanna, which led to his sinister intentions. But could he have truly been so irrational as to throw away his promising future by murdering his girlfriend in a moment of clarity? Furthermore, the brutal nature of the crime didn't resemble the actions of an amateur, but rather the calculated methods of a seasoned serial killer. At this point, the police quickly uncovered the answer. I previously mentioned that Blake was a graphic novelist. In 2010, he published a dark graphic novel titled Syndrome. It was a deeply disturbing and sinister work. The cover featured an image of a doll with its scalp removed. The novel opened with the question, "If you enjoy hurting others, what would you do?" And ended with the chilling line, "In the end, we all become monsters," accompanied by an illustration of a large hand. Eerily, the details of Iyanna's death closely mirrored events depicted in the graphic novel. One illustration showed a woman lying on a blood-soaked bed with her scalp completely removed. Furthermore, Blake's friends revealed that he had been obsessed with crime stories, especially gruesome tales of murder since childhood. In Hollywood, whether in films or novels, his works always leaned toward these macabre themes. Perhaps another motive for the crime was his desire to turn the ideas in his novel into art. Blake had even planned his escape. After committing the murder, he meticulously cleaned the apartment and concealed $4,000 in cash along with his passport in his pants. If not for Olga's persistence in reporting to the police, Blake might have fled to Canada. In June 2018, after nearly 2 years of prolonged investigation, the case, one that had shaken Hollywood and sparked widespread discussion, finally went to trial. Shockingly, Blake appeared in court looking overweight, a clear sign that he had been living comfortably during his pretrial detention. He continued to insist on his innocence, just as he had when first arrested. During the trial, he even attempted to delay proceedings by claiming he suffered from mental illness. However, a psychological evaluation determined that his mental state was entirely normal. The trial lasted 6 days. Prosecutors called a total of 14 witnesses and presented extensive physical evidence. Blake's guilt was undeniable. In court, the prosecutor stated, "Blake's actions were extraordinarily cruel, and the level of violence he employed is beyond description. It is simply inhuman. He meticulously planned this heinous murder, inspired by his own graphic novel Syndrome." The forensic pathologist also testified, stating that the brutality and horrific nature of the injuries in this case set an unprecedented standard of savagery. On June 26th, the jury took only 3 hours to reach a verdict. The judge declared Blake guilty of first-degree murder and additional charges, sentencing him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Upon hearing the verdict, Olga burst into tears. She had waited far too long for this moment. Clutching a photo of her daughter, she often cried, saying, "I'm sorry, my dear, I couldn't save you." Notably, despite Blake's prestigious family background, only his brother Cody attended the trial. The rest of his family was conspicuously absent, clearly expressing their disappointment in him. The custody of baby Diana also sparked much debate. Although she was Blake's biological child and eligible to inherit his assets, her grandmother Olga ultimately gained custody. While Iyanna had hoped for her daughter to grow up in the United States, after her death, Olga couldn't afford to stay in the US and had to take Diana back to their homeland of Ukraine. In a subsequent civil lawsuit against Blake, the court ordered him to pay Olga $41.6 million in damages to compensate for the loss of her daughter and the costs of raising her granddaughter. However, Olga revealed that she had yet to receive this compensation. Later, rumors surfaced that Blake's family had opted to settle with Olga privately for an undisclosed amount. Finally, I want to say that Iyanna's tragedy might have been preventable. Her mother, Olga, sensed something was wrong from the beginning. At the time of Olga's first report to the police, which coincided with the estimated time of Iyanna's murder, it's possible Iyanna was still alive. Sadly, the police failed to take the situation seriously enough, missing a critical opportunity to save her. Additionally, during the violent struggle with Blake, Iyanna made loud noises and screamed for help. In interviews afterward, several neighbors admitted to hearing a woman's screams but chose not to call the police, opting to remain silent instead. The case ended with a life sentence without parole, a resolution that still feels insufficient to ease the overwhelming grief of Iyanna's family, especially her mother and young daughter. Iyanna's story is one of profound pain and loss, an irreplaceable tragedy. However, I hope this story serves not only as a heartbreaking tale, but also as a lesson for us to live better, love more, and protect our loved ones. Let's hope that none of us will choose silence in the face of injustice, for silence itself can enable wrongdoing. That concludes today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.